Thanks, Aaron. I forgot. Honest? I don't know if that was one of the ones you guys picked as your top 4. Yeah, not like collectively as a group, but like, or collectively in your own group, but as a class, which one did we agree upon as the top 4 when each of your groups decided on the top one from the one you guys decided on? Willingness to learn. That was one. That's not good. Which other ones? Yep, and I remember how to spell it. Professionalism. Sorry if you guys can't see. Composure, yep. Okay. So those are the 4 that you guys decided on as a class were the top 4 characteristics that you feel a leader should have. Composure, willingness to learn, genuine, and professionalism. So for today's class, we're going to look at a Kuzer study. The author's name is Kuzer. And what they did over time was did research and studied what followers typically want in a leader. What characteristics do they want in a leader? So these 12 characteristics are what they found over a span of, I think since the 80s, they found that followers want in their leaders. These 12. So what we're going to do today, kind of as our start off activity to kind of see what you guys think about these characteristics, is I'm going to break you guys off into groups and we're going to have a trait auction. And we're going to have an auction, we're going to auction off these characteristics, and you guys as a group are going to decide which one you want the most. You'll have $2,000 in each group. So first, before we get started, I need somebody to volunteer to be the auctioneer. Somebody's got to do it. I can pick randomly. Okay, thank you, Seth. Okay, come on up, Seth. So let me break you guys off in your groups.
Before we start, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So, like, our quiz had a lot of the trade auction stuff. So, were we like not supposed to take the quiz, or?
You know what? That ran into last semester. That's okay. I'll curb those questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were all kind of talking about it. We did actually kind of bad on it because the trade auction was all like a half of it, and we were like, we don't remember coming to consensus about anything, which I'm guessing is what we were supposed to do today.
Right. Okay, that's fine. I'll curb those questions. That's not a big deal. Because those questions. Someone brought that up to me last semester. Because I think because we've changed some stuff with COVID, the scheduling's a little bit off. So that's my bad. So I'll curb those questions.
Okay.
And we'll get into it a little deeper. Because this lecture we're going to talk about those characteristics, these, and then kind of what some of the top ones are. And then we'll get into chapter 1 to discuss like clarity and drift a little bit further. So don't worry about that. I'll go in and kind of look at what the problem was, and I'll adjust the scores on those questions. Yeah, no problem. Thank you for bringing that up. So let me break you off into your groups. What I will do is, we're missing some people. I'll have you guys in a group. You guys in a group. And I'll put you guys in a group. And then you guys in a group. $2,000 to each of them. Okay, thank you. Which one is that? Oh, Devin, you can go in this group. Sorry. Sorry, you're kind of in the middle. I was like, where did my auctioneer go? Okay. So you can bring someone up, a designated leader, just for now, to come up and get the money that you guys will use to purchase your traits from Aaron. And just one person. And then this will be kind of designated auctioneer, or auction, sorry, you know, I've only been to a couple of auctions in my life. So be your person who's going to bid on the traits. Make sure your money's right, that you have $2,000. Okay, as a group, I want you guys to look at these characteristics. So obviously bidding starts off at $100. We're not breaking bills. $100. And then you can bid as much as you want, right? So you guys take a minute to kind of strategize a little bit on kind of what characteristics do you think, hey, we need to make sure we save our money for this. We don't really care about this one. You guys decide, and then we'll go through, auction them off, and then we'll discuss it and kind of see what traits went for and what you guys were thinking about as you decided on what to bid on. So you guys take just a minute to kind of discuss which traits you think are the most important that you want to make sure your team gets. You got the easy one, the easy job. You get to control the room.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I base my calendar off of Canvas. Is there any way that we can put the quizzes and assignments that are due on the calendar?
Yeah, they're not showing up.
They're not showing up on my calendar.
Okay.
So I almost forgot about that quiz. If you wouldn't have sent that reminder this morning, I would have never done it.
Okay, yeah, I'll double check because I think maybe quiz 2, because I double checked the deadlines on quiz 2 and the other ones to make sure they're up. Do you have Canvas on your phone? Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe before we leave, do you have another class following this one? Okay, maybe before we leave, double check and see if quiz 2 is showing up, and then if not, I'll see what I need to do on back, but I can definitely do that. Mm-hmm.
I just base everything off of that, and I add stuff into it, so personal stuff into it, so I don't forget.
I've been learning that students are using that a lot more. I've never used it until this semester actually looked, so I do want to make sure it's synced up. Okay, guys. So now we're about to get started. Okay. The auction is beginning. So the first characteristic is courageous. Courageous. And you guys have your designated leader, right? Your bidder? Yeah. Each group has their designated bidder, right? Okay. Courageous. Who wants a courageous leader?
Yeah, we're going to start bidding out at $100 bill. We can't break $100 bills here today. We got $100 bill.
Nobody wants a courageous leader?
100. Anybody want to get 2? We're sitting at 100. Anybody want to do 2? Anybody want to do 2? We're sitting out here. Anybody want to do 2? Sold them. $100.
Okay. Courageous. Need that money? Here you go. Wow, courageous went for $100. I don't want a courageous leader, I think. Okay. Cooperative. Want a leader who is easy to work with. Cooperative.
We'll take 100.
Oh,
We got 100
okay.
here. We're going to start off slow today. We're going to go 200 now. Anybody want to give me 2? Sitting at 100. Anybody want to give me 2? I lost my breath or I keep going. Anybody want to give me 2? Hey, it's just like checkers. It's somebody's turn right now. Anybody want to give me 2? Sold them.
Man, you are some really frugal. Okay. Okay.
I think so.
Fair-minded. Who wants a fair leader?
You do.
Okay.
We got 100 here. Anybody do now 2, now 3. 100. Send it 300. Anybody give me 4? Send it 300. Anyone give me 4? 4. Now 5. Anybody want to give me 5? We got 5 here. We're going back to you. Anybody want to give 6? We're going to do back to 5 over here. Anybody give me 6? Sold them 500.
Nice job. Okay, 500. Must be pretty important. 3, 4, 5. Okay. The next trait that's up is intelligent. Who wants an intelligent leader? Someone.
We got 100 here. We need 2. Looking for we got 100 here. We need 2. Medium now 2. Medium now 2. We need 3. Now 3. We need 4. Sitting at 300. We need 4. Sitting at 300. We need 4. Sold.
300 for intelligent.
Yeehaw.
Okay. You guys, the next trait is forward looking. Someone with some vision. Who wants a leader with vision? I think we got someone.
We got 100 here. Now 2. Now 3. Anybody with 2? Now 4. 4. Anybody 5. Now 6. Anybody with 6 here? 6 here. Now 7. 7 here. 8 now here. 8. 9.
Oh, wow.
1100. 10,000 right here.
Hey, fair-minded. Y'all weren't interested, huh? Okay.
I think this.
Let's see. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, guys, y'all listen up. Okay. Who wants a supportive leader? Somebody who cares. Someone kind.
There is a group in here getting broke, so let's figure it out. We got $100 here. Anybody gonna be supportive? Need $100 for supportive. Anybody gonna be 100 now? 2. Anybody want to get 2 for supportive? Anybody gonna get 2 for supportive? Anybody gonna be going once? Going twice? Sold 3 times.
Oh, you guys?
Well, we never finished. We did.
Yeah, we did.
Well, we gotta have the leader.
We have a leader.
Okay.
We actually had 2 leaders.
we only have one. Just one. Okay, let's reset. Who are the bidders for each group? Raise your hand.
I definitely was keeping up with the chosen dog right there.
Okay. Okay. Next trait, honest. Who wants an honest leader?
This is a high commodity here. We got 100 there. You're looking for 200. Sitting at 100 now 2. Anybody gonna need 3? Anybody gonna need 3? Now 4. Anybody gonna need 4? Anybody gonna 4? Now 5. Anybody looking for 500 here? Anybody want to give me 500? We're sitting at 4. Now 5. Now 6. Anybody want to give me 600 here for honest?
Yeah.
Now 7. Looking for 7 over here. 8 over here. Looking for 8 over here. You're out, man. We got them sold.
But for 700?
Yeah.
Okay, 700. Honest. Okay, thank you. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it looks like our top one so far is forward looking. Yep, for $1,000. Okay. Next trait is broad-minded. Someone who has an open mind, willing to work with different people. Broad-minded.
Start the bidding out of $100. Now 100 here. Anybody need me 2? Anybody need me 2? Anybody we're sitting at $100. Anybody need me 2? Sitting at 100 here. Anybody need me 2? Anybody need me 2? Anybody need me 2?
That was easy. Okay, 100. 100 for broad-minded. Okay. Dependable. Someone you know if you ask them to do something, they'll do it. Dependable.
Start bidding at 100. Anybody now 2 over there. We're sitting at now 3. Anybody 4? Now 4. Now 5. 5. Now 6. Now 7. We're looking for 700 here. We got 700. We want to give 8. We want to give 8. We want to give 8 over there. How about 9? How about 9? Anybody give me 900? Now 900. We're looking for 1,000. Anybody 1,000? Anybody 1,000? Sitting at 900 over here. Anybody 1,000? 1,000. Anybody else need on the bidding? Anybody else on the bidding? Sold. 1,000.
Or 900. 9. Okay, good job. Okay. Next trait is straightforward. Someone who's straight to the point, blunt, let you know what's happening. Straightforward.
Ooh, we're gonna start the bidding out at $200 because we got 100 over here. Anybody give me 2 over here? Anybody give me 2? And looking for 100. We're sitting at 100 here. Anybody give me 2? Sitting at 100. Anybody give me now 2, now 3. Anybody give me 3 now over here? We're looking for 3 now 4 over there. Anybody give me 4 over there? 4 over there now 5 over here. We're gonna do 5 now 6. Looking for 600 over here. She's out. We got them sold over here.
For how much? 5? Okay, straightforward goes for 500. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go for competent. Okay, competent. Someone. Oh, I don't even tell you about
We're
it.
gonna start the bidding out at 700. Anybody want to go higher with 8? Anybody want to go higher with 800? Anybody send 700 here, 700 here, 700 here. Looking for 8. Anybody want to give 8? Sold them 700. We got it.
Wow. Guess y'all must have decided on that early, huh? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right. Like, let's not play any games. Okay. The last characteristic is inspiring. Someone who pushes you to want to do more.
How much? 800. We got 800 for inspiring. How much? 1,500 over there? 1,500? We're sitting at 1,500. Anybody want to go higher with 15?
I think we're outbid.
16 right now. We're going to do 16. Sold.
Wow, okay. Must have decided on this one early, too. Thank you. Okay. Okay, let's give our auctioneer a round of applause. Seth was great. Okay. So, Aaron, what were our top kind of five? Oh, you'll get some bonus points. I'll take care of it.
All right, our very top one was inspiring for 1,500. Followed by forward thinking at 1,000. Dependable at 900.
You said 1,200 for the first one?
1,500.
15. 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And which one was dependable?
900.
Okay.
And then both competent and fair-minded were 500. Or, no, 700. We're not fair-minded. Honest and competent were 700.
Okay. I'm going to write this up here just so hopefully y'all can see it. You said 700? Okay. So our top characteristic, inspiring, went for 1,500. Second one, forward thinking, for 1,000. Third one, dependable, for 900. And the fourth was tied with competent and honest for 700. Okay, so. Oh, you're right. I don't know. Oh my bad. Forward looking. Okay. So in those, which group bought inspiring? Well, let's work our way back. Which group bought honest? Okay. Why were you willing to spend so much on honest? What was your strategy for deciding that?
I mean, if you don't have a leader telling everybody the truth and they're just kind of like being kind of a snake and deceiving people, then there's no reason to really follow them. So we just figured that that was pretty important. And honestly, that's the only one that we spent a lot of money on. So that was kind of our top priority here.
Right. For sure. Okay. Competent. Which group got competent? Okay.
So as a group, when we first came together, competent was kind of our number one, because you really need a leader who knows how to get things done, because if they they don't have the knowledge or really the drive to get things done. They can't really read other people or like, you know, kind of like oversee things if they don't know what to do.
For sure. Need someone with some follow through. For sure. Okay, dependable.
We have dependable.
Okay. Decision on that, behind that.
Oh, I think it's in the word. You just want someone you can depend on and rely on and trust. So I think it's very important for a leader to have that quality and competence.
Right, for sure. Okay. Forward looking. Yes.
I think it's really important to have someone in front of you who is like always, they're living in the moment, but they're also looking for the next thing, and they're not looking like to the side to get ahead of someone. Like I think of it with like in high school or in elementary school and junior high playing sports. Like we had a lot of different coaches, and I think the teams we were really successful on were led by a coach that was more focused on let's get better every week rather than let's like beat this team next week, you know.
Right.
So rather than like looking across and seeing someone that you want to get ahead of, like you just want to make your players better.
Right. So just having the vision to not just stay in the moment of game by game, but being able to see the big picture of how each game builds on being able to have a good season. For sure. Okay. Inspiring. Yes.
So, look at that because we feel like if you can't inspire people to believe in your cause as much as you believe in it, you have to take the cause that you have, and you're not going to have people who follow you. You know, that's a big thing.
For sure. Having someone that encourages you to want to do better, want to do more on a team is huge. Any thoughts as a class on the top traits that were bid on? How do you guys feel about it? Do you think that's reflective of what you would want a leader to be? Okay. So let's talk about the article a little bit. So in that article, we obviously had these 12 characteristics. Well, the ones that were up there, but you can guys see them on the PowerPoint. Had these 12 characteristics. But of those 12, 4 were the top ones. Do you think you guys got 4 of the top ones based on the highest bids? Do you think that's probably generally speaking what the population wants in a leader? Okay. Y'all did pretty good. I think probably the best I've taught on bidding on the actual traits that were the top 4. The bolded ones are the top 4 that consistently over time, and you want to make sure you know these traits, these top 4 traits, are what people want in a leader. Competent. We just talked about competent. Forward thinking. Honest and inspiring. Which group got honest? You guys? Okay, write all your names on a sheet of paper. You'll get some bonus points. Honest was the top trait that people want in a leader. So that was kind of the deal. Whoever got the top trait gets a few bonus points. So make sure you guys turn in a sheet of paper to me. And I already have you said, turn in a sheet of paper to me with all your names on there. So, was it? Okay. I'll take care of that. But yeah, so this is going to be on the exam. You want to know these top 4 characteristics. So let's talk about them a little bit more. In the article, which will be live on Canvas after this class, you guys can read through. Honest was something that people wanted because they kind of felt like, I want to follow someone who's viewed as honest. And a lot of time, if I'm following someone who's viewed as honest, I appear to be honest myself, and vice versa. But if you're following someone who doesn't maybe have some integrity or who isn't honest, people will sometimes tend to question your level of honesty. So just wanting someone who's going to be truthful and respect you in doing so. Forward looking, just like you guys talked about, wanting someone who has a vision. It's really hard to follow someone who is just kind of in the moment and doesn't really focus on the big picture to get you somewhere. You want someone who has a vision, but also can articulate a vision. So you understand the journey, so you understand the process. And people understand the expectations that come with the process, because a vision is multifaceted. So you need someone who is a leader who can see all that and communicate it and get the team going to want to kind of achieve the goal. Inspiring, like we talked about, you want someone who's going to get you fired up. You want someone who's going to make sure that you're happy to come to work each day, happy to get your job done. A lot of times if your leader is inspiring, it helps you maybe stay that extra 30 minutes at work when you know it's 5 o'clock and it's time for me to clock out. But you may stay a little bit later if that leader is positive, enthusiastic, and you really have bought into the whole vision. You bought into the whole goal, the dream. So having someone who is inspiring is incredibly important to keep people's energy high in reaching the goal. Being optimistic, even when you run into pitfalls, someone who can pick you up and keep you on track. And competent, again, someone who has good skills, not only in the job, but good people skills and can get it done. Someone who just doesn't talk about it, but actually has the follow through to get it done. Competence also goes with kind of what you guys said, with willingness to learn. Someone who is competent may not always have all the answers, but they'll take 2 seconds to do a Google search and figure it out. I mean, how many people have you worked with who won't even Google it? You're just like, I mean, we live in an age now where you can pretty much figure out how to do anything on Google or YouTube. So having a leader who's willing to take a little bit of time to do that. So again, since the 80s, these 4 characteristics, honest, forward-looking, inspiring, and competent, are the 4 that people have decided on over time are the top 4, except for inspiring. That was one time that it didn't come through, but over time, it is still the majority. And one other thing to think about with this is that we talk about later in the semester with diversity and culture and all those things. These are characteristics that haven't just been voted on here in the U.S., but these are characteristics that have been voted on in various countries. So it kind of shows that we're a little more alike than we think in what we want in a leader. So the article also talks about competence and honesty, how those work together to give you credibility. Makes sense. Just a quick little formula to think about. If you can build your competency, even if you go into a job and you don't really understand every single thing you have to do, you work on it and you continue to grow. Like you guys said, you want someone who has the willingness to learn. If you're always willing to learn and grow, and you're honest, you're truthful, that's going to build your credibility. Therefore, that's going to make people want to follow you. So that brings us to kind of our concept of what makes a good leader. This is something I want you guys to remember for the class, because I know everybody can think of multiple things that make someone a good leader. But in this class specifically, I want you guys to associate a good leader with someone that others will willingly follow. And in this article, it talks about that these characteristics, these 4 characteristics for sure, are characteristics that allow people to want to follow someone. Just be open to following someone. Don't feel forced to follow someone. So a good leader is someone that others will willingly follow. Want to make sure you remember that for the exam. Okay. Any other thoughts on characteristics? We're about to jump into the chapter. But any other thoughts on characteristics? So what are the top 4 characteristics that people want in a leader?
Honest.
Forward-looking.
Inspiring. And which one was the top characteristic? honest. Okay? And you guys can bring up those traits when we kind of leave for class today. So for the first chapter, let's move and shift gears into talking about leaders. Now we know the characteristics that they want. But now let's talk about kind of the internal piece of a leader, just on the journey of being a leader and what that looks like, the ups and downs of it. So one quote I want to take away from the book that I thought is important to kind of frame your mind when you're reading this book is that each of us has the chance to lead, and this book will help you find clarity about how leadership plays a role in your life. So some of you may be in a leadership role now, some of you may not, but this book is going to help you if you kind of take full advantage of it. It will help you kind of see where leadership fits in your life. It'll help you see how you view leadership, and it will help you see kind of the motives you have behind being a leader in different situations. So do you guys remember from the text what it is that most effective leaders do? And you guys can pull your books out. This isn't like closed book discussion. If you need to look it up, I'd rather you do that than not discuss. But do you guys remember what the book says most effective leaders do? What is it something that they're always doing? And a hint, it is something that you guys kind of talked about as your top characteristics on your own last week. Learning. Yes. Were you going to say something else, Abby? Okay. Yes, they're continuously working to get better. They always want to learn. They're never necessarily satisfied and content in their place. They're always wanting to grow. So one of the things in this book that you'll see as you go through the chapters is that it has kind of reflection questions throughout the chapter at the end of the chapter. This, like I mentioned before, is something like a manual. You can definitely use this to kind of understand yourself better. I read through your goals. I know some of you guys want to understand yourself better as a leader. You want to learn more about how to work in teams and those sorts of things. So these questions can help you learn yourself more. And also think about questions that you would ask someone else if you were a leader and you had a team and you wanted to understand if someone's wanting to step up to a supervisor role. You can ask them the questions like, why do you want to lead? So it's something that can help you in the future. So ask yourself that and ask who you are as a leader. Be reflective. So it also talks about leadership. Is it a conscious decision? Sometimes it is. Oftentimes it's not. Sometimes people get thrown into leadership roles. They fall into it. Have you guys ever experienced that where you just didn't necessarily volunteer or were voluntold to do something that was a leadership role? It happens. Not everybody who's in a leadership role has picked it or felt like, man, I was born to do this. So sometimes when that happens, you feel a little disconnected. It kind of can throw off your why behind your leading because you were kind of put in a position that you didn't necessarily choose. So just being a little disconnected from the vision, overall goal sometimes if you weren't really seeking that role. So that leads us to the concept of drift. The chapter talks a lot about drift. What is drift? Somebody tell me.
Those are like you fall into like a situation depending on, I guess it can be good or it can be bad. Like you could drift into a leadership position where there's that.
Yeah, pull out your book. That's fine. Yes, Joseph?
When you start to question like your ability to be a leader and like your role in the matter. Yes. Anybody else want to add to that? What drift, what that experience is when you go through
emotions?
Emotions, yeah.
Like just going through the emotion, like going through the motions.
Going through the motions, not really getting there, like if you're on a treadmill and you're moving, but you're not getting there. We're going to add something, Rachel? Okay.
I understood it just kind of like feeling lost. Like, you're just like,
Absolutely.
Self-doubt.
Yes. You doubt your abilities. You feel lost. You don't really know where you're going. Those are things drift. Those are signs of drift. It's kind of like what we talked about last week. When we talked about some of these leaders don't even know why they started this journey in the first place. You start to question that, not really understanding why they're in the role they're in. That's a dangerous place to be if you remain there long term. But it talks about many leaders go through this process where you question yourself. You don't really feel the confidence maybe you need to have in your ability. You feel unhappy. Okay? What does the text say about the top causes of drift? What gets you to a place of drift? How do you even get there? What typically happens to get you to that dreadful place of drift?
You don't feel challenged?
Yes. You can be under challenged. You can have a job that's just become so easy and mundane that you're just starting to question why you're even there.
Skeptical?
Skeptical. Yeah, and sometimes if you have a new leader come in and you don't really know the direction, maybe you don't know the values of the organization, and you become a little skeptical, and then you start to kind of feel lost, disconnected. Overwhelmed, absolutely. Overwhelmed. Sometimes, when people say they're just so overwhelmed, they just take a nap because it's just not enough time to do everything. So I just think I will sleep, even though I probably should be doing those things. That feeling of being overwhelmed. Okay, what else?
You're unhappy.
Yes, unhappy. Again, can be that job you're in that you just start to really not like driving there every day. And that can start to make you question things, question your abilities, question your talents. So all of those things, sometimes pressure. Maybe you're in that leadership role and you're feeling a lot of pressure, say you're a dean and you're getting pressure from a provost, or the CEO is pressuring you as a district manager. That pressure can cause you to really feel lost and maybe question your ability to be able to stand up to the pressure that's being placed on you. So all those things can cause you to go to drift. I know before I kind of started grad school at my last job, I kind of had a accumulation of those things to where I'd been there for like almost 5 years. I knew my job. I didn't really like some of the things that were happening on it. I definitely had some skepticism. I definitely was unhappy. And I just kind of started questioning, what should I be doing with my life? And I had like my 10-year high school reunion too, so age probably had something to do with it. But I just really started questioning what my future looked like. So I definitely went through that place of drift. Can you guys give me an example of when you've experienced drift and how you got there? Yes.
I think, and I think I can speak for a few of my friends that we've had this conversation. Going from high school, where I was in a leadership position in like my FFA chapter and everything, to going to being a freshman in college was a little bit like this because we had like 50 FFA members that we were in charge of, and now and we've developed all these leadership traits, through everything that we go through in FFA. And now you go to college and you're just kind of sitting there, especially in a COVID year where there's not a lot going on. We're not really sure how we can channel those anymore because we are freshmen in a really big campus in a really odd time.
For sure.
And so I think that's kind of one way we've experienced that, just because we don't really know where to go with the qualities that we want to use.
Right. That place of uncertainty and that transition. Sometimes transition can cause that abrupt shift into drift, because change isn't always easy. Hey, Eric.
Yeah, basically what she said. Whenever you go from, depending on what size school you went to, I don't know, if you come from a really small school and there was just like your 6 officers and like the small men FFA members, like it can be challenging going from like that, or like not even just FFA where you're on the softball team, you're on FFA, band, everything, and like you have leadership positions and all of these things, and then like you get here and it's just like now you have to restart over and find new things to do, and it can just be challenging to like, was it really like, did I really like do something important in high school? Like,
You're like questioning your abilities, because it is kind of like that little fish, big pond when you switch over, and maybe you were able to accomplish all those things in your hometown pond, but then you come to this bigger place and you start to question yourself, well, am I really that legit? Like I did that good back home, but now I'm in this much bigger pool of people, much bigger pool of talent. Am I really capable of the things in this arena as I was capable of going back home? Yes.
There's also the instance of you used to doing everything and anything you wanted to in high school, and then you come here and you try to do that and you get overwhelmed. Because classes are a lot harder here. If you join too many clubs and you try to take on leadership positions in there, you get overwhelmed. Or if you just try to like take on too many like jobs along with classes, like you get overwhelmed and experience strict faculty too.
For sure, because you have so much more, quote, free time. Now you get to kind of structure your day around your classes, and sometimes the freedom of choice can overwhelm you. Sometimes it's easier when it's just like you have a block schedule, you know this is what's given to you, and that freedom can kind of overwhelm you, especially in the start of it. Yes?
I'm kind of in the opposite boat as everybody else because I'm a senior this year, and so I think senioritis and drift can kind of be the same concept.
For sure.
Kind of just overwhelmed with everything, you know, trying to find a job and graduate, but then also just being kind of bored with what I have going on. Like, go to class, I've been going to class for so long now, I'm ready to just kind of move on.
Absolutely. I remember that way back when graduating college, and you're like, yeah, like you're so excited, and then you like come off of that high and you're like, what am I going to do with my life? Like I've accomplished this, but maybe I'm not as sure of the next chapter. I think I experienced the drift after graduation where I should have been experiencing it during my senior year. So definitely, again, going to that stage in life where there's a transition, and in graduating college is kind of a big transition because you're expected, like now you're adult for real. So maybe being concerned or worried about your future because you know college is maybe that next step to help build your career. But the uncertainty, especially in times like this, the uncertainty of what jobs look like and industries look like really can cause you to feel a state of drift, for sure. So when we go through drift, it's not really fun, but a lot of leaders go through it. It's just a part of the process. But going through drift, at some point you want to get out of that drift because remember, it's a little risky, it's a little dangerous if you stay there too long. So once you move out of that place of not being confident, not really knowing the future, being worried, you want to get to a place of clarity. What does the book say about clarity? What does that place of clarity look like?
About your profile, vision, values.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You kind of like go back and outline like, okay, yes, I'm feeling this way, but why am I doing this and what did I start for in the first place? You remember like why you wanted to do it.
Right.
And like in my case, for like coming to college, I just feel like I'm swimming. Like I wanted to do it so I could be a better person than 4 years down the road, like generate those leaders out of a classroom.
Right, Anna. So like Raylan said, kind of understanding your why, using the values and the vision and piecing that together helps you understand that why. So it's really when the book talks about in the zone. It's the opposite of drift, and it's when you start to really have that focus on your end goal. It's when you start to make conscious decisions because you understand where you're trying to go. just very much focused on what it is that you want to do. So again, bringing it back to kind of what we want the leaders to be. Remember, we want them to be forward-looking. We want them to be enthusiastic about getting to that goal. So when you're in a place of clarity, it's much easier to be enthusiastic about a vision because, one, you understand the vision. You know what the vision is. So no questions there. You are confident in your ability to make the vision become a reality. So when you have that confidence, it's easier to be enthusiastic about getting to that vision. Does that make sense? So, and these PowerPoints will be up on campus too. So just really having the clarity, the clear vision to know that I can do this, and this is what I'm trying to do. We're going to talk about the vision and the values that help you get to clarity. So one thing for vision, and we're going to talk about vision and values later in the semester too and go a little bit deeper into each of these concepts. But right now, when you're thinking about vision, that is just kind of like your overall purpose. But one thing to kind of break down vision is that there's a difference between a vision and a goal. You look at goals as many little stair steps to get to your vision. The vision is the big picture. The vision is the kind of the destination, so to speak. But in order to get there, you need to have, just like, I don't know, I've looked at a ton of productivity videos on YouTube because sometimes I suffer from procrastination. So I look at those videos and it talks about make little bitty goals that are easy to, achieve. So it's like, if I'm saying, oh, I want to work out, I want to have working out as part of my life, maybe I can say, okay, working out twice a week. That's a lot easier than me saying, okay, out the gate, I'm going to work out 7 days a week when I'm coming from 0 days. So making those little bitty gimme goals, those itty bitty goals that kind of you can achieve, then making those goals bigger and bigger, that's how you obtain your vision. Values. Having core values that essentially just help you make decisions. It's kind of that inner piece, not like literally P-E-A-C-E, but like a piece of pie. But that piece of you, your conscious, those things that kind of tug at your gut. If you're in a job and something's happening, maybe someone's skimming some money off the top and stealing is against your values. It's that tug you feel in your spirit where you're like, this isn't right. Should I say something? Should I not? So understanding your values along with your vision helps you understand what your why is. If you understand what your values are, then you can, if you are in a company and you're feeling drift and you're feeling unhappy because your core values don't align with the company's core values, that can help you make the decision to remove yourself from that situation. Therefore, helping you get out of that state of drift and move into clarity. So knowing your values and your vision is very important. Like I said, we'll talk about this later in the semester, but knowing your values, what those values are to you, and having your vision of what that big picture looks like is important. So another kind of little, formula to think about is that everybody wants an authentic leader. Genuine. You guys said that. You want someone who's genuine, you want someone who's authentic, you want someone who you believe when they're talking to you. So in order to get that, you want to first know your vision, because you're trying to become an authentic leader. You want to first know your vision, and then you want to know your values, but you want those things to be congruent. And again, as we go through this semester, we'll talk a little bit more about that. We want them to be congruent, meaning we want your vision and your values to align. You want someone to be able to see you as a leader and be able to understand what your vision and your values typically could be, And not say, oh, well, my vision and value, like I value a healthy lifestyle. My vision is to be like a CrossFit, you know, I don't know, champion, whatever, someone who's just super into CrossFit, but you see me at McDonald's like through the drive-thru every day. You're like, well, I don't know, Courtney, like that doesn't really seem congruent. It doesn't seem very authentic, but what you say your vision and your values are. So again, you want those things to be congruent where people can see your actions, they align with what you say you're about. Okay? Any questions about that? Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more. I'm going to pass out our essay sheet so we can talk about this, because our essay one is going to build on this. But we're going to talk a little bit more about kind of your personal views of yourself as a leader with Thursday's activity. But the big takeaways are understanding drift, clarity. Can you guys remember the top 4 characteristics?
Honest, competent, inspiring, and forward-looking.
Yes. Knowing those characteristics and understanding what drift is, what causes drift, what can get you to drift. How do you get out of drift to clarity? What does clarity look like? What pieces of clarity do you want to have? That vision and those values. You want that, and in obtaining that helps you get out of a place of drift and get to clarity. Because clarity is always the goal as a leader. You don't want to remain in drift too long. Remember, it's risky. Okay? So I'm going to pass out this essay sheet to you guys real quick, and we're going to go over this because the essay is going to be due on February 9th. Thank you. So we want to go ahead and start talking about this. Any questions about what we've talked about today with characteristics and drift and clarity? Does it all seem to make sense? That's the thing I kind of like about the content in this book is that, thank you, even though it's new content, it kind of makes sense. Like, I know common sense isn't very common, but it makes sense, like puzzle pieces that go together, like on things you need to work on to understand yourself, your vision, your values. Kind of makes sense. So let's talk about this essay. So for essay 1, it's the leadership interview. So this is when you're going to identify someone who is a leader to interview. Doesn't matter what their leadership role is, but they can't be like a roommate, a friend, or anything like that. They need to be someone outside. It can be a professor. It can be a teacher from back home. It can be someone who works maybe at an office back home. Someone that isn't a friend or a roommate. You're going to interview them. And you want to understand them a little bit better on how they became a leader. Are they satisfied with their leadership role? Again, reiterating those points of drift and clarity, just understanding them. So in this paper, you're going to highlight some of the most important findings, and we're going to talk about some of the questions to guide that interview down below. But you don't, and you want to make sure you're pulling from chapter 1, but you don't want this interview or this essay to read as a transcript. You don't want it to be like, I asked her this, she said this. I asked her this, she said that. You want to really intertwine this into an essay that uses what they say to highlight course content. I have an example essay up here. Here, let me look at it like you guys will see it. I have an example essay in this week's module here that you guys can look at. This is a really good essay. So if you're kind of wondering what this looks like, what it looks like when you're not just writing a transcript of your interview, it's on Canvas. So definitely check this out. This was an A essay. So when you're kind of starting or writing this essay, you're wanting to highlight again the concepts of drift and clarity. So these questions here from page 9 in your book, those are some good questions to ask to kind of frame your paper. So you'll see that a little bit in the essay, the example essay up there. But you want to use this kind of as a loose guide. But you certainly want to talk to them about clarity and drift, and you may have to explain what those concepts are as how we define them in our class. But you want to kind of talk to them about that, and these questions that help you kind of lead to that. So when you go through the essay, kind of on the back where you have your rubric, 12-point font, you want your name and title on the first name. Don't take up a big space on the essay trying to, make it longer. But you want the essay to be 2 pages at length. But some of the things I want you to focus on with the grading criteria is that professionalism, writing effectiveness, grammar, spelling overall, that's 10 points. Remember, this is a 50-point essay. So that's 10 points there, and just making sure you've proofed it, because we can tell when you haven't proofed the essay, so you make sure you want to proof it and check for grammar. But obviously that's not the biggest portion of our grade, so that's not the bulk of what we're looking for. So the next piece we're looking for is application of course concepts. Let me show you this, because this is something I see repeated that tends to be an issue. When you're writing the course concepts, you want them bolded. You want them bolded. That can be a quote from the book, or it can be a key term. But what I don't want is that every concept you use is overwhelmed, clarity, drift. Like every concept is just one word. So one good way to kind of tie in books, like a good tip, is if you're explaining something, like if you're explaining clarity or drift, you can use a little bit of that explanation as a bolded concept. Okay, so I don't mind a few keywords here and there, but all of your essay should not be only keywords. It should have some stuff that show that you have tied, like this. It said drift occurs when, it explained what drift was. Or if there was something else, you're talking about leaders fall into position, fall into their role. And your person you interviewed talked about that they didn't choose a leadership role. You can pull that from the text to highlight that as a course concept. They need to be bolded. Essays are often turned in and they're not bolded. It makes it easier on us as far as grading to make sure that we're pulling out those concepts. Because if we got to guess that you meant this as a concept but you didn't, you could lose points there. So you want to make sure that you have a minimum of 5 concepts or quotes. Direct quotes from the text. I'm not looking for APA style or anything like that. I'm just looking to show that you are kind of including what the course content is into your interview. So at least a minimum of 5, but you can certainly do more. The quotes are from the text. The quotes do not count from the quotes from the person you interviewed. So make sure they're the quotes that have been pulled from the text. And then depth of thought. Any questions on that so far? Okay. Depth of thought. Closing paragraph, literally titled, What I Learned. This is your opportunity to tie in all the concepts of what you learned from this chapter, from this interview, and just put a little bow on the essay. So this is really just your kind of reflection piece. Again, like I said, this class is a lot of personal and professional development. So this is an opportunity to really reflect on the concepts and then reflect on the interview and how you're going to take what you've learned from the concepts in the interview to move forward as a leader. So it's like you're applying it, moving forward. Make sense? So again, this essay is approximately 2 pages in length, 12-point font. You're going to interview a leader. You're going to ask them questions about their leadership journey. You're going to use these questions that are on this rubric, but also in your book, page 9. Use those questions to help guide your interview. Your interview should not read as a transcript, and it should read as something that kind of lets us understand. We don't need a ton of background about your person. Like, we don't need a paragraph telling us who your person is. the bulk of it should be us understanding their leadership journey and how that relates to what we talked about in class and what happened in chapter 1. Are there any questions about this? Okay, so what we do with this essay is that you'll see on Canvas, go back. You'll now see on Canvas that there's an essay draft portal. So every essay, we have an opportunity for you to turn in a draft and get feedback before the deadline. So if you want feedback on what you've done, and Erin will kind of go through them and make sure that you're on the right track or point out any red flags that can really dock you on points. She'll point those out, the big ones, and then you'll have at least 24 hours to get it turned in for submission. So you'll get it 24 hours before the February 9th deadline. And it's due before class, so 9 a.m. it has to be submitted. So again, if you want feedback, that is not required. You do not have to turn in an essay draft. But if you want the feedback to kind of make sure you're on the right track, that's due by February 4th, Thursday, February 4th. And then you'll have that feedback at least by Monday morning to make the changes that you need to make to get it submitted in time for February 9th.
Just one thing on the feedback. In terms of writing, I'm not going to go through and fix your grammar. I'm just going to let you know that you need to look at it. So I'm not your English teacher. So something I always recommend to our leadership classes, because papers and writing is just going to be a part of your life, is we do have a writing center on campus. It's free. You pay for it in your tuition. You can submit it online. Just make sure you do that kind of early, because they do have to have time to look at it. And that will boost your points, because we will take off a little bit for like professionalism in your writing and grammar. It's not all of it, but it is really good to practice, even if it's not the emphasis in this class.
Absolutely. And punctuation, I mean, I've seen some papers that look like bare minimum effort. I don't think it was any reflection of ability, but I mean, I's weren't capitalized. I mean, come on, stuff like that. So definitely take advantage of the writing center, because this this draft feedback is not meant to be line by line by line to tell you every little thing was wrong. So definitely, like Erin said, don't expect a very thorough review. It's just to make sure, like, looks like you need to tie in those 5 concepts. Looks like you only have 3. Or something like that kind of helps you. Or if it looks like it's reading like a transcript, just saying, hey, looks like it's reading like a transcript, you might want to go back and revisit it. So it's definitely not going to be, but if you want some more feedback, I'm sure if you reach out and say, I'm kind of confused on what I need to do, then feel free to reach out and ask questions. But that initial feedback may not be super thorough, but it's at least to make sure you're on the right track.
Yeah, the feedback's going to be more focused on course concepts, not your actual writing skill. That's kind of what I was getting at.
Mm-hmm. Any questions about that? Okay, well, that's all I have for you guys today. Remember, make sure you guys have read chapter 1, and I'll see y'all on Thursday. We're going to talk a little bit more about you guys personally as a leader. See y'all then.